There comes a moment in life when someone realizes that what they had is no longer theirs, not because it disappeared overnight, not because fate suddenly took it away, but because they slowly let it slip through their fingers while believing it would always be there. And when she knows she lost you, something changes, not always on the outside, not immediately, but deep inside, where pride can no longer hide the truth. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share is going to reframe something most men carry for years without ever fully understanding it. We're going to go through several stages today. Each one matters, each one builds on the last. But I want to flag something right now. There's a stage coming, later in this video, that most men never reach, not because they can't, but because they don't know it exists. It's the stage where everything shifts, where she stops being the center of your emotional world and you stop needing her to be. That stage changes a man completely, and it changes how she sees him. We'll get there. Keep watching. If this is your first time here, welcome. Subscribe right now. These are real conversations about psychology, emotional strength, and becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to chase. New content every week. I want you to have access to all of it. Now, let's get into this. At first, she may try to act unaffected. She tells herself your absence doesn't matter. She convinces herself that moving on is easy. She may even appear happier than ever. But appearances can be deceptive. Sometimes the loudest smiles are covering the deepest realizations. Because when someone truly loses a person who cared, respected, and genuinely valued them, the silence becomes impossible to ignore. The messages stop, the attention disappears, the energy that was once freely given is no longer there. And suddenly, what seemed ordinary becomes rare. She starts remembering things she once overlooked. The way you checked on her, the way you listened, the way you noticed small details nobody else paid attention to, the way you showed up when it mattered. Those things didn't seem extraordinary when they were happening every day, but now they're gone. And absence has a strange way of revealing value. She meets new people, she talks to others, but something feels different, something feels missing. The effort isn't the same, the sincerity isn't the same, the connection isn't the same, and that's when reality starts speaking louder than pride. She realizes that what she considered normal was actually rare, a man who genuinely cared. A man who stayed consistent, a man who invested his time, his energy, his attention without being asked. Those things are easy to underestimate until they're gone. And once they're gone, replacing them is much harder than expected. Keep going, because what happens next is what most people never talk about. Stage 1, your silence becomes louder than your words ever were. When she knows she lost you, your silence begins to affect her more than your words ever did. Because people become accustomed to presence. They expect it, they rely on it, they assume it will always be there. But when that presence disappears, they are forced to confront what life feels like without it. The phone becomes quieter, the days feel different, the emotional safety she once took for granted is suddenly missing. And that's when the questions begin. What happened to him? Why did he stop reaching out? Why does he seem okay without me? Those questions grow louder every day because what troubles people most is not always losing someone, it's realizing that the person they lost finally found peace without them. There is something powerful about a man who stops chasing, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but because he finally understands his own worth. The moment you stop begging for attention, your value becomes visible. The moment you stop forcing conversations, your absence becomes felt. The moment you stop proving yourself, people start wondering whether they underestimated you. And when she knows she lost you, she notices these changes. She notices you're no longer waiting, no longer convincing, no longer trying to earn a place in someone's life. You're simply moving forward, and that can be difficult to watch because people expect the version of you they've always known. The version that stays, the version that forgives endlessly, the version that keeps returning. But growth changes people. And what growth actually does to a man, what it makes him become, that's what we're going to talk about next. And it's the part that makes her realize the depth of what she lost. But first, if this is landing for you, subscribe right now. Hit the bell. Real conversations every week. I don't want you to miss what's coming. Now, stage 2. Stage 2. She starts checking, quietly, constantly. She may start checking your social media more often, not because she's obsessed, because curiosity grows when certainty disappears. She wants to know if you're doing well. She wants to know if you've moved on. She wants to know whether someone else is receiving the energy she once took for granted. And every sign that you're becoming stronger without her creates a complicated emotion inside her. Part admiration, part regret, part disbelief, because she expected you to remain exactly where she left you. Most people do. They think you'll always be available, always waiting, always hoping. But life doesn't work that way. People evolve, people heal, people grow. And sometimes the person who once couldn't imagine life without someone becomes the person who finally discovers peace alone. That's when the loss becomes real. Because losing someone isn't always about distance. Sometimes it's about realizing they are no longer emotionally attached to the version of the story you were still holding on to. When she knows she lost you, memories begin returning unexpectedly. a song, a place, a photograph, a random moment during an ordinary day, and suddenly she's reminded of everything she thought she had more time to appreciate. That's the thing about opportunities. They often look permanent until they disappear. Then suddenly they become priceless. And while she may never say it out loud, there are moments when she wonders, what would have happened if I had valued him differently, if I had listened more, appreciated more, recognized his worth before his absence taught me the lesson? Because hindsight is powerful, it gives clarity that wasn't available before. It reveals mistakes that once seemed insignificant. It highlights moments that could have changed everything. But time only moves forward, never backward. And one of the hardest truths people face is realizing that some opportunities don't return, not because forgiveness is impossible, but because growth creates new paths. The person you become after learning your worth is not the same person who accepted less than they deserved. And this is where everything shifts, because while she's beginning to realize what she lost, you are beginning to realize what you gained. This is the stage I mentioned at the beginning, the one most men never reach, the stage where you stop needing her realization to validate your worth. Stay with me, this is the most important part. Stage 3, you stop needing her to see it. There was a time when you wanted her to understand. You wanted her to see your value, to appreciate your effort, to recognize everything you invested. You wanted proof that it all meant something, but growth changes that. Now you understand something much deeper. Your value existed, whether she recognized it or not. Your effort mattered. Whether she appreciated it or not, your character remained valuable, whether she acknowledged it or not. Because worth is not created by approval, worth is discovered within. And once that truth settles into your heart, something remarkable happens. You become free. Free from constantly seeking validation. Free from chasing acceptance. Free from needing someone else's opinion to determine your significance. That freedom is attractive, not because it impresses others, but because it transforms you. It allows you to focus on becoming instead of proving. It allows you to invest energy into your future instead of your frustration. It allows you to build a life that isn't dependent on anyone else's choices. And that is often when she notices the biggest change. You are no longer trying to be chosen. You have chosen yourself. There is immense power in that. And she feels it even from a distance, because people who choose themselves radiate a different energy. They walk differently, they think differently, they carry a quiet confidence that cannot be manufactured, a confidence born from surviving disappointment, from overcoming heartbreak, from discovering strength they never knew they possessed. And when she sees that confidence, it reminds her of what she lost. Not because you became perfect, not because you became someone else, but because you became the fullest version of yourself, the version she never expected to see, the version that emerged after the pain, the version that no longer seeks permission to be valuable. Stage 4, she tries to return, quietly. Sometimes she tries to reconnect, not always directly. Sometimes it's a simple message. Sometimes it's a reaction to something you posted. Sometimes it's a random conversation that seems innocent on the surface. But beneath it often exists a question she may never ask out loud. Do I still matter to him? Is there still a place for me? Has he really moved on? Because human beings are curious about unfinished chapters, especially when they realize they were the reason the chapter ended. She may replay old conversations in her mind. She may remember moments where you tried to communicate, moments where you fought for the connection, moments where you showed up while she remained uncertain. And now, looking back, those moments appear completely different. What once seemed excessive now appears sincere. What once seemed ordinary now appears meaningful. What once seemed guaranteed now appears irreplaceable. That is the strange thing about loss. It acts like a magnifying glass. Suddenly, every good memory becomes clearer. Every effort becomes more visible. Every sacrifice becomes easier to appreciate. But here is what she doesn't expect. She assumes you will remain available whenever she decides to return. She assumes the connection will be there, waiting, exactly where she left it. But life doesn't pause for anyone. And what she finds when she looks is not the man who was waiting. It's the man who moved on. Not bitterly, not dramatically, peacefully. If this is connecting with something real inside you, subscribe right now. Share this with a man who needs to hear it. New content every week for men who are done waiting and ready to start becoming. Now, the final stage. Stage 5. She realizes you didn't need her to become complete. One day, she notices that you are genuinely happy, not pretending, not performing, actually happy. You laugh more, you worry less, you carry yourself with purpose. You seem lighter, more focused, more grounded, and suddenly she understands something she never considered before. You didn't need her to become complete. You only needed yourself. That realization can be difficult because many people mistake love for dependency. They believe being needed is the same as being valued. But real value exists even when dependency disappears. Real value remains when someone can walk away and still choose themselves. And when she sees that, She begins understanding your strength in a way she never did before. The strength wasn't in staying forever. The strength was in leaving when your self-respect demanded it. The strength wasn't in convincing someone to love you. The strength was in knowing that genuine love should never require constant persuasion. And perhaps the most powerful part of all of this, you no longer need her realization to validate your worth. Think about that. There was a time when you wanted her to understand, when her recognition felt essential, when her approval felt like it mattered more than your own. But now you understand something much deeper. Your value existed whether she recognized it or not. And once that truth settles, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop begging for what should be given freely. You stop chasing people who keep running. You stop sacrificing yourself to maintain one-sided connections. You keep building, you keep growing, you keep learning, you keep becoming stronger than you were yesterday. And the pain that once dominated your thoughts becomes a lesson. The heartbreak that once consumed your energy becomes wisdom. The disappointment that once weakened you becomes fuel. Before long, you realize that losing her was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of a transformation you never would have experienced otherwise. And that transformation taught you something that cannot be taken from you, that the right people will never require you to abandon yourself to keep them. They will never make you feel like your love must be constantly proven. They will recognize your effort, appreciate your presence, meet your energy with energy of their own. Because healthy connections are built on mutual respect, mutual investment, mutual appreciation, not on one person carrying the entire weight while the other simply watches. And once you understand that truth, you can never return to the version of yourself that accepted less than what your heart deserved, because your standards have changed, your awareness has expanded, and you have chosen yourself. That is where the story changes. That is where it was always heading. If this video meant something to you today, subscribe. Share it with a man who needs to hear it. I put out these conversations every week for men who are done accepting less than they deserve. Stay grounded, keep growing, keep moving forward. The best version of your story starts the moment you decide you are worth it.